Confluence today. Thank you very much for coming and joining us for now. And of course, the title and topic today that we have is basically managing Generation Z, the recent most generation that has joined the workplaces and how they are actually contributing to the workplace and how exactly they're affecting the decisions of any organization, how exactly the organizations may need to look at their strategy as far as their structures are concerned. So we started off, we thought about it, and we thought that this is basically kind of a thing that everybody should be keeping an eye on, and everybody probably wants some idea from certain gurus who are in the game for the past decade, maybe more than decade, of course. Which, of course, our guest for the day, in fact, our creative head, Ms. Varda Yusuf, she is here. With more than a decade of experience in services industry, she has been managing teams for the past 4 or 5 years, and very successfully, of course, and a very composed leader, in fact. So we thought that, in fact, we should start off with the first podcast from this page with our own creative head, and then I should take the honor to bring her in. Welcome, Mr. Yusuf. I've already given a
Assalamualaikum ji.
brief of an introduction, brief of the introduction, but I would request you if you could just elaborate a bit for our viewers.
Alright ji, so I am Varda Yusuf and as Nan calls me Miss Yusuf as for direction and for addressing me. So by definition, referring to the introduction and the topic that we have today in discussion, I think I'd rather say that I'm a millennial, and going to be talking about managing Generation Z today. And as for my background check, I think people can check out the profile as well. Yes, it's been more than a decade now that we've been handling teams and working in collaboration with young blood and older blood, and it's been very interesting and quite a fascinating journey. So there's a lot of learning that we have brought to the table today. That's something I would like to begin with. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much for the introduction. Of course, like you said, the topic for the day, it is what I would call a burning issue nowadays in the workplace, especially for the managers who are actually in their late 30s or maybe early 40s, and especially the people who strategic domains as well. Because a new blood, they're coming in and they are tech-based completely. They open their eyes with all the gadgets and everything around them, internet. It was a matter of choice for us, but for them, it is more like a matter of compulsion now. They're not part of the system if you don't know anything about that, and if you don't keep a smartphone along with you, in fact, very
Right.
different personality too. But the way they are contributing to the workplaces, I think it's better that we should actually go and discuss the roots, how exactly they are, what the way they are. So, starting with the first discussion point that I believe that we should be working. So, what do you think? There are certain basic fundamental characteristics when it comes to this generation, and why they are actually a bit of a unique thing, completely a different one when it comes to the previous generations. We talk about generation Y, X, boomers, and all that. Even some of the Xers are still part of the workplaces, some of the Ys are still part of the workplaces, but how exactly generation Z is altogether different to the rest of that.
Right. Mr. Iftkhar, when I look at it, and I'd like to take it from the basics. So, you and I could be millennials, you and I could be Generation X, but so Generation Z, पे जब हम गौर करते हैं and we look at it, basically Z is for Zoomers, right? And they are basically the people or the children who were born or the people born in the late 1990s and early 2010s. So this particular set of decades are the people who belong to Generation Z. This is one that is following Generation Y at the same time will be preceding Generation Alpha. So it's a very interesting combination when we look at it because we were probably immigrants. Our parents would hide away the DSLs from us, and we had routers and stuff, and we had curfew timings for, attending to the what we call as the internet. But unfortunately or fortunately, these kids have been born into that. So they're digital natives. And when we talk about the basic and characteristically about them, about their traits, I think we're talking about very emotional people
Yeah.
here, people who are very tech savvy. They don't want to be commanded. They'd rather work in collaboration. We're talking about some very emotionally charged lot, which I think is also the energetic part of it, which we can actually work upon and actually make the most of. We're talking about a community which will not want to be dictated, but would want to work together as a team and will not be just managed, but would like to be bigger and bigger contributors to the economy. So these are the people who might take a seat at your bigger tables and actually be more quite valuable as well. So when we talk about basic characteristics, I think we're talking about Jazbati people who would really love to contribute, at the same time would not really be, let's just say, limited to the flexibility of timing. So there are people who would like to be productive and not be time bound. So there's some characteristics that I can think on top of my head. Gee.
What I personally guess from your impression is that probably they want to be facilitated rather than being managed, because management,
Absolutely.
when you go to the Bavarian philosophy, it was all about what you have been told. You don't do more than that, you don't do less than that, and you will be judged on that. So probably it is just that they don't want to be judged. And the current given structures that we have for the past almost, I would say, a century, that actually is being evolving. Definitely no problem at all with that. But the shift that these Gen Z guys they bring into the corporate sector and the workplace, that is altogether something unique. So probably they want to be facilitated, not managed. They don't want to be
Agree.
judged by the way, because when it comes to management, by default, it is embedded in the structure that you have to judge, because you have told somebody to do something, you have to go and look at it, have they done it or not, and seriously speaking, are they working on it or not, and then you have to tell them if they are going good or not. I'm just saying in this telling this whole plan in this sense. So building on it, I mean, they are, like you said, you just named some digital immigrants, I reckon, is what we were,
Digital natives.
or the
We,
earlier generations, the people who actually guided us or mentored us,
yeah,
and they are the digital natives. So you
absolutely.
think that you talked about them being tech savvy. So
Yeah.
how exactly being tech savvy while they are going with all this social media coming in and all that? Do you think that their level of information is far greater than the ones we have, because they are being bombarded with the information? You see. So how
Well, that's
exactly?
a, yeah, a very, very interesting question, actually. You'll find Generation Z being actively involved as influencers in the community. Have you noticed how influencers have suddenly taken the entire social media? I think they've become good uh, medium of actually giving out information while they're also consuming a lot. So when it comes to talking about their impact, let's just say, to put it right in the words, so yes, I think they're there. ऐसी बात नहीं है कि they can't really get there. But then again, we're handling a cohort which might have the information if put in the right direction. That
Right.
is, again, we were back to the place where we're talking about how they don't want to be managed, but they also are very selective in their consumption of information themselves. So like somebody very rightly said, I think somebody's put up a question how their suggestions are actually mistaken as orders. I mean, that's a very rightful comment made, because sometimes workplace पे issues हमें आते हैं when we're actually guiding them through, and let's just say your leader has a certain set of tasks on their hands already, and they would want the person or their millennial Z generation Z candidate actually fulfilling some task, and they probably take it as an order, and sometimes they get offended they were not asked for their opinion. So I think they're pretty selective in what information they get. As much as they can make much more of it, but that's also a recommendation. So there's a lot at, let's just say, right in front of them to consume, for us to consume. But you and I might just be looking at consuming the right information at the right time. This particular generation is definitely bombarded with a lot of information. Now, being selective there is a rightful choice to make. However, unfortunately, we find people consuming the wrong information too. So there's a lot on the media, there's a lot out there for consumption, but then we actually have a big challenge out there as well. We have to strike a balance. We also have to understand what kind of information are they consuming. Is it accurate? Is it appropriate? Is it relevant? That set of characteristics is something that we really have to look into. So again, a challenge, I would say.
Perfectly fine. And I reckon this is basically one of the biggest reasons why they're so creative and innovative as compared to us, because they've got a lot of information. So when we
Right?
talk about facilitation as a manager, I mean, a middle manager, somebody managing Gen Z, and I've just, have if we have a look at the comment that we got, it definitely came from a Gen Z person. So that
I'm
they
sure.
are basically in a string order. Like I've already said, it's not basically how we are what we are asking them. Probably it is how we are asking them. So we
True.
actually have
True.
more as a team member with them, show a lot of empathy towards them. And got to be very much emotionally intelligent to understand exactly what they're working on, how they're working on, what is going on in that very, very, very fast brain. See, so
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
which
So
definitely
Arsa,
brings.
if I may just intervene for a bit. So ideally, this has always been a challenge to communicate it the right way. But unfortunately, we've come across a cohort now which takes it to the heart. Like I said, they're very emotionally charged these days. So plus, I think they also want to be doing so much. So when we talk about, you're very right about the fact that they really are creative and innovative, and I think they deserve that space also to work around. Gone are the days when people would just be told what to do and they just take it the way it is being served. These people or Generation Z demands it the right way. So I think communication in the right format, in the right demeanor was always a requirement at any corporate level, at any management level, at any administrative level. However, this particular generation demands it as a right. So they're very, rights conscious, I feel. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have another question, and again, that should be from the Gen Z person. Being somewhere close to Gen Z in terms of age group, how do you suggest one should strike a balance between the expectations of millennials and Gen Z? So this is a big question. I think they are just trying to ask that what kind of a gap between us and them is. But before I'd request you to to comment on it definitely. But I just want to add one thing because I have been in consultation with these Gen Z guys. Day before yesterday, uh, a youngster who's like 28, 29, and he's a manager who's more than 50. So he was having all these issues. There was some sort of what I would call, it's his words I'm quoting, that I'm being exploited. So how do I counter it? So what I actually told the person was the idea is you are being exploited on purpose and you are being exploited on purpose as well. So what you
Okay.
need to do is just talk business. Okay,
Hmm.
if you're
Hmm.
getting one and a half a paragraph of like 10 lines being you being told that exactly you're not delivering, then you should actually answer in one and a half line that what you have delivered and you're looking forward to further directions. So yesterday I got a message, a screenshot from him, and he said, I did exactly what you told, and this is the response. And the response was there was no further response except okay. So this is the idea. We'll be working, certainly we'll be asking Ms. Yusuf further that what exactly corporate psychopaths are and how they actually manipulate Gen Z. That is a very crucial question, by the way. But before we proceed further, Ms. Yusuf, I'd like you to address this question. This is a very important question, given your
The
experience
gap.
and
Right. So this is interesting because I think we can very strongly relate to this. How come? Because I'm a millennial myself, and I have had the honor of working with men and women elder to me, very close to my age, and even younger to me, and managing that team altogether becomes a challenge in itself. So you're not just talking about managing Gen Z now; you're talking about a harmony amongst every generation that you are currently being exposed to. So interestingly, when we talk about the gap, so just look at it like a family where the parents are trying to connect with the children. I really feel that's how it works because communication becomes key then, and that's something that I've always told around as well. देखिए, this is a community or a set of people or a cohort of people we're talking about, which is demanding respect right now. But I think the basic important and significant most criteria has to be clear communication. अब communication को अगर आप break down करें and look at it closely, I think academia serves an excellent example, and these applications are relevant in every community, in every corporate sector, in every other sector whatsoever. And we're talking about breaking down rules and communicating them to them. जिस तरह हम कॉर्पोरेट में केपीआईज को रिलेट करके बताते हैं, जिस तरह क्लासरूम के अंदर आप स्टूडेंट्स को बताते हैं ना कि दिस इज योर लर्निंग आउटकम, दिस इज गोइंग टू बी द ऑब्जेक्टिव फॉर टुडे, दीज आर द गोल्स वी आर लुकिंग एट, दीज आर द एम्स वी आर नाउ एमिंग एट. So that has to be communicated to them because it's like entering the room without having to know exactly where do I have to go. So directionless, this community won't work. So the basic way of bridging the gap is to sit with them and communicate properly. Number one, उस communication के अंदर आपकी respect का तो angle आ ही जाता है. The right way of communication, like you very rightly said, keep it to the point and relevant and precise. I think that does the job pretty well. Thirdly, we're looking at communicating what exactly is desired of them. We rightly said, आप कुछ example अभी quote भी की. वाई इज दैट इम्पॉर्टेंट? बिकॉज अगर आप उनको डायरेक्शन लेस लेके जाएंगे, ये जो जनरेशन है ना, ये फ्रस्ट्रेट हो जाती है. आई होप यू कैन रिलेट टू दैट. दे गेट फ्रस्ट्रेटेड. हाउएवर, आई फील कि हम अक्सर उसको डिसरिगार्ड कर देते हैं, सेइंग कि बच्चे थोड़े से बागी हैं, दे रिबेलियस क्राउड. नो, दे डायरेक्शनलेस राइट नाउ. यू वुड फील फ्रस्ट्रेटेड. हम वो कम्युनिटी थे ना, ये कह दिया जी ये रास्ता है, यही चलेंगे, तो आप वहीं चलते चले जाते हैं. These people are now looking at something bigger. They are also looking at multiple, and unfortunately ek to we're now facing you know times biggest inflation, recession is in place. हम इतनी परेशानियों से गुजर रहे हैं कि everybody is looking at parallel ways of income also. और इस situation में, I'm just giving you an example. अब इस situation where they're already frustrated, you're not even communicating to them directly, you're not giving them a complete focus or something like that, or direction is missing. On top of it, they want to do something on the side and you're discouraging about it. They will not take it nicely. So I think being very encouraging and supportive in whatever they also want to do is the key. It's like you're making your child sit with you and listening to them, and then providing pathways where you can assist. So I think that has also worked wonders. So being supportive is also a key that you can bridge that gap with. Yeah,
Okay, very well put, Mr. Yusuf. In fact, but there is something that I'd like you to comment further on.
please.
Given the current technological era, there is a lot of pressure on middle managers because they are acting as a bridge between the top management and the function level. The function level is actually usually filled with generations.
True.
So, top level, we have to manage usually the Xers, the Gen X,
Yeah.
and they want things done like just like that. And there's a lot of pressure on the middle management as well, the ones who are communicating the requirements to the functional level. So
True.
we are talking about supporting them here.
Hmm.
So do you think that we have enough time to just always go, and don't you think that it will actually be like treating them like children? It's good, pretty good, but sometimes even they take the privilege. In my experience, that you are always there, and they are now considering you not a mentor, but basically a secondary plan. But okay, if it
Okay.
doesn't happen, sir or ma'am will do it. They always cover me up. So what I can do, I can just be a
True.
little late, no problem at all. So the balance, how would you like to comment on the balance that we have to strike so that job is done,
Mhm.
but it is done in the best possible way, in an empathetic way, in a supportive way, please.
True, true. So that's an interesting thing to put it like. I think that's where we feel and we find ourselves being exploited. Me, that's where we feel as managers being exploited. So how, that's a very interesting one again. So yeah, how do we go about that? So like I say, so I always try to relate it to children. Why? Because I think that's the best example to serve in a community. देखिए आप सबसे ज़्यादा इस वक्त सच्चे किस्से हैं या तो अपने माँ बाप से या अपने बच्चों से. I think giving that sort of support, I'm not saying treat it entirely like home, but I'm saying give that support that you'd like to offer to your child. Why is that? Because that's where you scaffold. Now, that's a very interesting phenomena where you're acting, it's a civil engineering phenomena where you stand as a scaffold to this particular building that's going to now stand, and that wall has to be stronger. And then there's a time that you back off, and that's where they come in. Yes, there'll be instances they'll take this leverage as their right, like I said, and they are very experts here, by the way. So the striking the balance there, where we become better judge of when to let it go and let it be on their shoulders as a responsibility. Again, communication plays a very vital role. Why? Because you sit there, you tell them how this is how a certain task is supposed to be, executed. This is the area where I support you, and this is the area I expect you to take care of. So there have been times that I have been leveraging a lot of support, managing it for them. But that is where I've also been very clear that this is the one time alone I'm going to be doing this for you to understand and learn, because I want you to grow. So that support needs to be there, so that next time they don't exploit you. However, a very interesting part. There has been a lot of research and a lot of discussion on the fact that how you should not be micromanaging. I have personally felt it's not always about not micromanaging. I think it becomes vital to micromanage this particular generation for a little bit. But then you supervise, you sort of oversee what's happening for just a little chunk of time. Reason being, आज आप थोड़ा supervision दिखा देंगे, sooner or later, you're micromanaging for now, you're making sure everything is done for them. So I'm not saying I'm doing your job, I'm micromanaging it for you, but you're the one who's going to be ultimately in charge for this particular. task, and that's when they take it over. So we have scaffolded enough, and now it's their turn to take it over. So I feel वो थोड़ा सा मुश्किल आती ज़रूर है. We feel exploited, but I think that's our better judgment that we communicate how this is going to be their job in the coming run, so that they don't have anything to fall back on. Be there as a scaffold for the initial phases. Let it go, micromanage if you can. See, let it go, let them do the bike ride like they say. So yeah.
Perfect. So, if I may add a couple of my own sense on this, because I personally believe I talked about that they're being judged. They believe that we are being judged. And they're scared of it. Coming up with sometimes even they don't do it because they believe, okay, the guy sitting there or the person sitting there, they'll judge me. They'll just grill me, and they've already been recently grilled in the universities and all that. You've just come out and you just want to enjoy life now because there is no pressure. However, they get introduced to a different kind of a pressure that will actually stay there for the next 4 decades, in fact. But probably allowing them this leverage, we have to allow them the leverage, but allowing them the leverage to try and then
Agree.
being cherished.
Yes.
Just being cherished. Okay, you did it. It is a wonderful thing what you did. Okay, you did it this way. Great job. You found a new way of doing it. Okay, why don't we try it in another way? Just like that. Add this to this ingredient to it, and just bring it back to me and see what happens. You know. So they'll just be very enthusiastically go back, look at what they have already done, add that idea that you sparked in their mind,
Yeah.
and probably they'll come up with the best possible thing, and then we cherish them again.
Agree.
Okay, look, I told you this actually increases their trust in their managers. In somebody who's in late 30s or mid 30s, they actually just they get a lot of trust in the person. Okay, the person knows that how I can get better, and they also appreciated me for what I did. So this basically sort of is a match made in heaven now. Now they listen to us. We have started inspiring, and I think we cannot guide them. We can only inspire them through actions,
Very true.
if that could be what it is. So one more thing that actually bothers the middle managers much, that yes, Gen Z, they're tech savvy and they're tech savvy naturally, but what kind of technology they're part of? You see, I would talk about it that maybe we need to understand how they actually write the text messages in WhatsApp, because GR8 is a GR8 to me, but to them it is great. W8 is a W8 to me. In fact,
That's a wait for
in the
them.
in the second half of, in the second half of my 30s, for with like 15, 16 years already in the corporate sector. But we need to learn. We need to learn again when we go to LinkedIn or any other such talks and look at those gurus talking about. They tell us to learn. So maybe we need to learn again the way we communicate with them, because when we talk to them in their language, okay, I should call it lingo.
True.
That's the right term for them.
Very
In
right.
their lingo, it feels that they are at home. So you'd like to expand on it. How could this little instance be a helpful element, and how we can direct them to, work on the right technology, because they are very good with smartphones, but when it comes to laptops, when it comes to organizational suits, let's just say they have to work on MS Word. Many of them struggle with that. Very few have found some. They are outstandingly good, but they had to take the test. So how can they actually excel on that? Shifting from Instagram to MS Word. That's what I'm.
That's so true, actually. So, very interestingly put, actually. So, when you were just repeating and just talking about this one experience that you had with the children and with a colleague, I am understanding one thing for sure, that yes, this generation particularly lacks trust and is insecure, and that could be based on several factors that has to do with a lot of broken homes these days, a lot of issues going on at homes, इन्फ्लेशन की वजह से लोगों के स्टैंडर्ड्स गिर गए हैं, जो भी मसाइल हैं, there's a lot that's going on in the world. I mean, it's going on, and पहले इनकी hype नहीं हुआ करती थी, things were pretty composed and kept under the rug. These days they're pretty exploited and people are pretty open about it as well. उसके इन्फ्लुएंस की वजह से you find there's a lot of hunger in this generation as well. जिसको नहीं है probably उनके पास तो फिर maybe there's so much they don't have to worry about an incoming of cash. But those who are, they really want to do something about their lives. They really want to bring about a change because they are fed up with the politics that's happening, the environment that they're in. So the entire pestle analysis that आप कर लें, so you'll find there's a lot of cause for all the frustration, etc. So जहाँ I feel कि as managers, we also have to be the people who actually work on their skills. At the same time, जहाँ उनको interpersonal skills की जरूरत है, और उनकी आपस में कम्युनिकेशन की इनको सुधारने की ज़रूरत है, उनको समझने की ज़रूरत है हाउ द वर्क इज गोइंग टू वर्क अराउंड। I think at the same time हमें भी बहुत कुछ उनसे सीखने की ज़रूरत है, so that we connect. And you're so right, and why I'm trying to link that insecure and trust wala part with this part is the moment we sort of make them understand that, yeah, you're home, because we understand what you're saying, we understand your language, it becomes easier to communicate what you want to say to them. I think that's a very good transition we can make even in ourselves. It makes us stay relevant at the same time, because this is a very fast-paced growing generation which will probably be taking over the our positions as well very soon. But if we don't adapt to what they are wanting to do and what they like to do, it will be difficult. Coming to the part, I think using everything to the advantage is very important. You'll be amazed how they introduce to you how for every marketing department इनसे अच्छा social media कोई आपको नहीं बताएगा कैसे चलेगा. So that's very interesting part, right? So we get to adopt things from them and they get to adopt things from us. But at the same time, like I said, अगर हम उनसे Instagram और social media adapt करके उसकी marketing tactics उठा के collaborations के बारे में बात करके वो स्पॉन्सरशिप्स की बात करके उनसे सीख सकते हैं, क्रॉस पॉलिनेशन की बात कर सकते हैं मार्केटिंग में। तो आई थिंक वो भी हमसे यही सीखेंगे कि भाई योर फाइल्स इवेंचुअली कैन नॉट जस्ट गो एंड बी प्रेजेंटेड not on a PowerPoint slide or not a prissy. It will definitely be needing a forum or a platform where it needs to be presentable. It can't be done on Instagram, right? So I think this is where the beautiful combination comes into play, where we adapt from them, they adapt from us. So yes, there will be things they'll have to learn, have to, and of course things that we'll also have to adapt. I feel so.
Perfectly right. So, just for the viewers or anybody who uses this video later, certainly just walk us through this whole idea of deconfluence and what are the services they're offering, and what was the basic idea behind that, what was the
Uh-huh.
motivation, and how exactly somebody can get the services from deconfluence if they want a particular training set for their middle level managers to manage Gen
Hmm.
Z. Because you know what, in 30 minutes, everything cannot be encompassed. So, could you just help us out with this and the viewers who specify?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think I'll take pride in letting you know how Confluence was made. Confluence basically, literally means, the meeting point where two rivers meet. I feel we as a community have a lot to give back to the society. At the same time, there's a lot of adaptation that can happen around the world. And coming from the academics and academia myself, I felt that there's a lot of research involved in what we do. So understanding the basics and the missing links in many organizations that are out there, I think we are the people who can make these two people or two phases meet each other and actually be in a confluence where we facilitate their learning. Because I can't say that I'm going to teach them or make them understand or mentor them and make them learn. I feel we are the facilitators. As a part of Confluence, we are aiming at facilitating the learning process of the other organizations. And everything might just be going right in your particular organization per se, but there could be areas which you need addressing for, which is why we have these mini podcasts now airing, because you want to really be talking about the relevant issues in communities. And there are areas जो आपकी management बैठकर आपको नहीं शायद बता पाएगी, या coming from the third party, it makes more sense to them. There's a lot of relevance that can be built upon. So there are many areas you want to talk about. Is technological advancements, maybe your team doesn't get along, how to make the team building happen. There's a lot of VUCA learning that can be done. And there's so much that people can figure out when they visit the page, inshallah ta'ala. And they'll understand how this is going to be a part where everything comes together and we learn from each other and transform the organization for the betterment of both the parties. Yes, that's the
All right.
idea
So,
behind
definitely, is there a way out if somebody wants to lodge an inquiry? Maybe, let's say there is a company and somebody might be viewing this as well. So, I think we can share some link with them. They want to lodge an inquiry, and some rep goes back to them.
Absolutely. So
But
there's a lot of research that goes on in first, so that let's say, while they fill out, there's a link that they follow through, and they fill out a certain form of requisition. They can always ask for a customized plan for themselves. There could be an area we already have expertise in, and we're not showcasing right now, but the company might want, or the organization, or that particular cohort wants us to address, and we can come to it for that because we do our research first, due diligence is done, and then we come to aid with a customized plan and a customized training sessions or list of sessions for them, and then of course it's on the table for them to choose from. So it becomes really relevant to address the issues. Yeah.
it's perfect, and I believe that the whole idea actually does have it just surrounds around the industry revolution for because much has changed. You know, we talk about ChatGPT. right now, and people are just putting in the queries and they're getting the responses, but the quality of responses they're getting actually is troubling. So maybe somebody wants, and Confluence can offer a training session for them to how exactly to put a query in the chat GPT. This could be a
This
good
would
idea. And I, as far as I know, because since I'm a part of this whole setup as well, that yes, there is a capability. We have people. In fact, you can lead this very important session with any organization, or we can in fact have a podcast as well. That how now intelligence has become the key element. It's not just simple skills that okay you can type. It's just about what you are asking to a platform like ChatGPT. So
absolutely. May I just add there one thing? So recently I had a manager who came to me. So I understood the concern, and I really respect the fact that everybody wants an assistant for them to be working for them. So there's a lot of legwork on the table that you have to get done and get through with. But in the essence of that, the main strategic level work sort of gets subsided or ignored. So that's where I actually wanted people to also know via maybe this platform that Chat GPT is your biggest assistant right now. Utilize it to the best of means that you can. However, utilizing it the right way is what you need to do, which means the right set of queries need to be put in. It's like coding because I'm a computer scientist myself, so I can relate to that. You don't put in the right code, you don't get the right query fetched. Simple. ये databases की तरह है. Query ठीक नहीं डालेंगे तो आपके पास वो information ही निकल के आती. So it's very interesting the phenomena. I'm glad you mentioned that. So there's a lot of tricky business to this, but organizations can do go lethal with it, I believe, and it's one
exactly.
area which is yet to be Karachi exploited to the right direction. Yeah,
Right.
it's a personal
Right.
assistant to you all of the time. Yeah.
Definitely, there's much that we can discuss as far as our topic is concerned. We can just keep going and going and going, of course, but time also is a limit. Of course, the fourth dimension, as far as we know it. So it has been an amazing honor, seriously, to have you here, and I believe that we just put something forth for people to think about it. You know, it's not just knowledge; it's just we're just trying to just come up with the ideas that people won't be, because as thought leaders that Confluence offers, thought leadership
Yes.
that we offer. The idea is just to give people something to think about and then get back to us that
Hmm.
how we can be helpful to them to get it materialized. So we'll just keep on coming with these podcasts regularly, at least three or four in a month, I think. And certainly we'll just keep on coming with, we'll just increase the frequency as well. And you, the viewers, can also let us know what you want us to talk about. Definitely we'll be talking about, because it's just you, because why we are here to share our ideas, share our thoughts, and it's very important for us that you actually come up with your inputs and ideas too. So for now, thank you very much, Mrs. for sparing time for us, and thanks a lot. I believe that this is a good, humble beginning for Confluence, coming with the first podcast, and that too in a very on a very sensitive topic. I believe that everybody would just get a grasp of. So, viewers, thank you very much for your patience as well. And if you are watching the video recording, again, thank you very much for your patience. Please leave a comment, and we'll definitely address this and come up with the expert opinion of our guest for sure. So, for now, Joe, thank you very much. So we'll be going
Thank you very
offline.
much. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you